Hello, shalom, and welcome to the Scout Israel vlog. My name is Yossi Silverman. Previously on this vlog, we've been discussing what it's like to work in archaeology in Israel during the COVID crisis. Now we're going to discuss politics. I would like to talk about something to do with the kind of climate. It's to do with kind of the barriers we have and the barriers that have been at least broken down for me. So working in archaeology up in one of the most groundbreaking places in the past decade for Iron Age stuff in Arnona, and it had a heat wave and they couldn't employ me in the site anymore, and the IAA, the Israel Antiquities Authority, very nicely sent me to a different place in the Jerusalem Hills. I'm not going to be specific about the location because it hasn't been published yet. So the first thing is I joined the ranks of a certain type of person. You may, if you're middle class and work a 9-to-5 job, you may never see these people. They're very much considered to be invisible in the world at large. People who wake up before dawn to stand on the corner of a street somewhere waiting for a transport, a company transport to a work site. I understand this happens everywhere in the world, from Mexico to Israel to what some might call Palestine and some might call Judea and Samaria. I'm not going to tell you what you should think about that. We'll go decide that yourself. So I joined the ranks of these people. I was supposed to be at the Jerusalem Central bus station before 6 in the morning, so that the transport could pick me up at 5:45 and take me out off to a site in the Jerusalem Hills. And the first day I turned up, I look around and everybody there, apart from maybe 2 people, well, let's put it this way, they don't look, I'm not being racist, they don't look Jewish, meaning they definitely don't look Jewish. They're wearing crosses and stuff and speaking Arabic. So these definitely aren't Jewish people. In fact, they're Arabs. So here I am waiting for a bus. It's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I for a few days did this. Every week's actually. Got up early in the morning, went to the central bus station, stood in this big crowd of. Actually, fairly small crowd of guys waiting for our company transport from the Israel Antiquities Authority to take us off to the work site. And we got talking and it was all very nice. What I want to talk about is a very peculiar experience I had, where I'll show you a picture of this. I would wear this big floppy hat with dark glasses. And as I go to sleep on the transport, because it's so early in the morning, that's what you do, especially after like a week of working there. You're absolutely exhausted. And I think you can see with my hat and my dark glasses, I don't particularly look like any ethnicity. I just look like a tired bloke who's going to work. I was asleep on the bus. We had to go out into the what some people call Judea and Samaria, and some people call the occupied territories. Don't really care what you're going to call it. Maybe I should. Don't care. We drove out into the occupied territories just for shortcuts. Came out to the back to the work site, and we have to go out and then in through a police check. So it's a military police check. So a few days into this, we're going through. Normally we just get waved through. And I suppose sometimes maybe as I wasn't wearing my floppy hat, they could see this here, and they do profile the hat. That's what they do. You can argue about that in the comment section. Please feel free. I had my big floppy hat on and I'm asleep, and I look like anybody else. So they stop us and say, everybody out, we've got to check all of your ID cards to see where you're from, what you're doing. This looks suspicious. I don't know why it looks suspicious. It just did for the guy, or maybe he was there, get X number of transports, pull them over and tell them to get out. And everybody just wanted to get to work. And I was a bit upset because we're worried we might lose our job or something, or they'll say, cut down on our time. and it's irritating. So we all got. I had a choice to make as well. I could take off my floppy hat and show, look, one of these were okay. No, I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going to say, no, there's a Jew on the bus, so don't bother. I kept my floppy hat on and didn't get off the bus until all my friends agreed to get off the bus because they were arguing with the military police guy. I'm not going to stick out like a sore thumb, and also, we're workers. We're all the same. By the way, you're probably going to challenge that. I've got an answer to that later on in the vlog, so stay tuned for later on in the vlog where I'll answer the "we're all the same" thing. So we got off the bus, checked all of our ID cards, and it really hit home to me. This is how some people work. This is how some people live in this world, in Israel, and also in whatever you want to call over the green line. This is ordinary behaviour there, both for benign things like travelling to work and fairly serious things like people get stopped when they're on the way to a hospital check or a serious hospital check. Red Crescent ambulances get pulled over. There's on the one side, this is absolutely terrible. This is a breach of people's civil rights. Yes. By the way, this is Amichai, my co-presenter. I do think that should be a temporary situation, and that these checkpoints should be dismantled, because it isn't fair that people live in a situation like that. Also, I would say that these police checkpoints are, however, necessary because, personally speaking, I had friends who, in the Second Intifada in 2002, got on buses heading out to places like the centre of Jerusalem and never came back. They died. And they died because people were coming over from areas in Judea and Samaria or the occupied territories. Again, I don't think it's going to solve the solution if we agree on one of these two terms. You might, I don't, so there. And one of these people came from one of these areas and carried out a serious terrorist attack and killed my friend. So I do think that these are necessary things. I don't think that they should last forever, because that's not a solution. I can't bring up this little fella with the knowledge that this is how we should live. This is how a moral state behaves, and I would like, as a Zionist, Israel to be a moral state. And this isn't being a moral state. But I said something about breaking barriers. The Great Leveller is where you're doing all the same work. You're all sweating. You're all muddy. All being asked very nicely by the archaeologist to carry out this heavy physical labour. And you get to chat whilst you're doing it. You get to understand where each other's from. I had a few questions from some of my new Arab friends about why I'm here. What is going to be the future? Will there be peace? That's actually something we did discuss, and I think that was very positive. And I had friends who are far more, I suppose you would call them right-wing than me, who had the same discussions. And if we can't have discussions like that, then there won't be peace. Also, I mentioned something about surely my situation is disingenuous because there's a power dynamic here. I am holding the whip handle as part of the Israeli elite over the Arab Palestinian worker and proletariat. This is just plain wrong. And I was right. And I experienced that this was wrong because my next site, I was working underneath an Arab Israeli. or Palestinian. I don't know how he defines himself. Maybe this gentleman also defined himself as a Palestinian, and that's fine. So there's no power dynamic in that sense. I was earning less. I wasn't the guy making the orders, and again I was on the same level. I was on the same level, at least on the work side, because obviously in day-to-day life it might be different, is different. On the same level, and these barriers were broken down by the very act of work. Also, I had certain really beautiful moments connected with coexistence. One of the sites I was at, we were given the instructions of how our day would look. We were told when our breaks was. That's the most important thing the worker wants to know. When is my break? So we had two breaks, one for lunch and one in the afternoon. And it was explained that the afternoon break would also be the break for people who wanted to pray the afternoon prayers of the Muslims. They pray 5 times a day. And it was amazing how that break started on one of the sites. It started by a gentleman calling out what's called the adhan, the call to prayer, which starts with the words Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. God is great, God is great. And Jews don't have a problem with that statement because Muslims agree that Allah means the God of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob as well. So a guy saying God is great, and they're talking about your God is a lovely way to start your afternoon break, and also inspired me the desire to, whilst they were doing their afternoon prayers, I actually did my afternoon prayers a little bit later, I would sit and open up a holy text and study. So it was a very spiritually awakening moment, and it was a lovely example of coexistence. Especially during Corona, at a time where each person is so distant from their fellow, and I think actually people are getting more radicalised, more extreme by our distance. I got the opportunity to break it down by working in essential labour in archaeology with Arab Israelis and Palestinians, and I started off talking about a physical barrier, physical checkpoint, which I think that there are more serious barriers, the barriers we don't see, the theoretical barriers, the barriers of race and ethnicity. And I think these barriers can only be destroyed by one person being close to the other person, by one person talking to the other person, not just get out of my land. And I think both sides should really learn that. So yeah, it's just a thought, and if you don't like it, comment. Don't unsubscribe, because I want to hear you. Instead, share this, get more subscribers, get more of a discussion going in the comment section, because change will only happen when we discuss things with each other. Thank you very much for listening, and like, share and subscribe.